and activation stopped being interesting. That was a way for me to find myself, but it was not the way for me to engage in the world. You know, it was my time to look for wisdom. Wisdom is in all those white spaces. So when you have dominance come into your life, you have to recognize, A, you didn't choose your partner, they didn't choose you. You know, so get out of this whole business that, you know, this is all a mistake and I'm being abused by this. And because the geometry is there for us, those of us that can enter into a relationship correctly, what you're entering into can be one of the most dynamic and fulfilling learning experiences in your life. You know, when I taught you in caring about integration, you know, I told you that integration only cares for itself unless there's a 28 or a 38 or the combination of that channel present. So in my life, I end up with 28 38s. They end up in my life and it's a dominance. I don't have the 28, I don't have the 38. But you know, if it wasn't for those people coming into my life and struggling with me, you see, I never struggled for knowing. And because I never struggled for knowing, I was never going to struggle to get it out. Never. You know, when all of this knowledge came to me, I couldn't give a damn about anybody else knowing all this stuff because I didn't care. You know, last thing on earth that I wanted to do. 28 38s, you know what they would do? They would torment me. Because they would say to me, how do you know this? You know, they drive you crazy. And you can't say to them, don't bother me today. Because, of course, the 2838 has a hook on somebody like me with the 2057. They got a hook. You know, and they forced me to care that I could explain that knowing to them. I've learned so much from watching people struggle. And I've seen both the negative of that. Sometimes I have to send them out of the room. You know, I'm about to turn on the computer and I go, don't come in here now. You know, I don't want to crash. You know, I've learned to deal with them. I don't get annoyed anymore. You know, I know that if I'm going to go on a trip that the car's going to die, you know, but it's built into the plan because you know that struggle's going to be there. Now, it's not my struggle. You know, I can stand up there righteously and say, you know, this is all your fault. It's not. That's the magic. See, I have to know all that. I don't have any choice, and I don't even have to know why I need to know that. If I can surrender because I've entered correctly, I can surrender to the dominance, and I can surrender to what that dominance brings me. You know, to the point that now, and probably for as long as I'm alive, I'm going to be emotional for the rest of my life because I've got these young emotional children. Jesus. You know,